Welcome into the final edition of LaRosa's Kentucky football preseason position previews. We are at the strength, some would say, of the Kentucky defense. Mark Stoops' secondary. He's got a new assistant coach in there. Jason Collins replacing Stephen Clinkscale. He's got a lot of experience. And you know who has a ton of experience too? LaRosa's. They make the best pizzas in town. Check out one of their 3 locations. And they got a lot more than pizzas too. Their wings are excellent. Hoagies, you name it, they've got it. Upgrade your tailgate by visiting larosas.com before every single Kentucky football kickoff. Before we really get in the weeds, I just want to tip my cap to Yusuf Corker. He's bringing some dad strength to the team, and he's having some very relatable moments talking about juggling both back and forth. And I can tell he's loving it because he goes from mauling dudes and watching film at the facility to going home and then watching Sesame Street. So he's getting the best of both worlds, and he might be just the best player on this Kentucky football team. As much as we talk about Chris Rodriguez, you got Will Levis coming in, Wan'Dale Robinson, Boy McCall's coming back. Corker might end up being the highest draft pick. He might be the all-SEC guy. He can do it all, and he's continued to improve. I think PFF had him as the highest graded returning safety in the Southeastern Conference. Freddie, what do you just think that Corker does best, and what do you think he really brings to this defense?
Preparation is one. I mean, Corker is a cerebral player. We all know about his physicality with the tackles and how he breaks on the football, but he's extremely cerebral, and he's a hard worker in preparation. I can remember a story of him coming out of high school that he kept a book of all the receivers that he faced, and he studied that. He's carried that over. He knows the defense in and out. He can make checks, make calls, make adjustments. He understands the offensive intent of every play. So SEC has several really good safeties, but I think Yusuf Corker could be the best, and I've been on that train for quite a while. I'm a big fan of Yusuf Corker. I think he brings so many different traits to the defense that he is. There's no players are irreplaceable, but he would be hard to replace.
Luckett, and Freddie touched on the experience. He's one of a couple seniors that know the playbook like the back of their hand. Tyrell Asian, senior. Devante Robinson, super senior. There's a lot of safeties that have played a lot of football at the University of Kentucky.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the strengths of the team. We've heard Brad White talked about multiple times. If you're good down the middle, you can be a really good defense. In Kentucky, I think they feel like they're really good down the middle, and they have a lot of seniors. Marco McCall at nose, you got Square, Jacquez Jones, seniors at linebacker, and then at safety room, you've got 3 seniors there. You got 1 super senior and then 2 redshirt seniors. And Corker's a 3-year starter, last line of defense. That I think that gives you some peace as a defensive play caller, knowing you got a guy you could trust back there. And I think it's going to allow maybe the defense to get a little bit more creative potentially this year and how they maybe attack some people, because they know they've got some experienced guys in the lineup with the capacity to master some different things,
particularly in pre-snap disguises. I think Mark Stoops isn't known for being very exotic and blitzing all the time, but you can disguise a lot more things to where the quarterback, Freddie, they're not going to sure who's lined up exactly where and what position they're playing, because they can be wherever at on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, because when I was playing quarterback, having a safety that's experienced, knows what they're doing, can disguise like Yusuf Corker was the biggest headache to me as a starting quarterback, because you have to identify the safety to find out what coverages you're going to face. Coverage influences fronts. I mean, in blitzes. So picking up the safety's intent is vital for opposing quarterbacks. Yusuf Corker can disguise that, and it's very important and sets the tone for pre-snap reads for opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, and, he's played well as of late. I think one guy that we kind of sleep on a little bit is Devante Robinson, because he had a very freak injury. To tear your quad while working out, that does not happen. That's just not a thing. Yeah. And he even noted recently that, overcoming that hurdle, overcoming that obstacle, it was tough. And then COVID only made it more difficult. And I'm hopeful that D-Rob, the Henry Clay, a local kid, I'm hoping that he can have a similar trajectory with Darius West, where he was back, in his 2017 season. He was fine, but he was off a little bit on some angles, and then really kicked it on his senior year. Look, I think this is a position where you got to have the reps to really replicate what it's like in a game like atmosphere to get back to 100%.
Yeah, to me, Robinson's kind of the key of the defense this year. I think if he kind of gets back to that 2018 form and has a year similar to Darius West, like you're mentioning, Nick, where West was one of the best safeties in the SEC that season. If Robinson just becomes a really high quality starter who you're able to use in a lot of different ways, I think it just changes things for the defense. And I think that's how they reach their ceiling, is by him having a really good season. Like you said last year, he wasn't himself all of 2020. Now he seems like he's ready. He seems like he's a full 100%, and I think it can be a game changer for the defense.
We've touched on a lot of the safeties. There's some quality depth behind them too. Taj Dodson, Ricky Hyatt Jr. He got a nice shout out from Yusuf Corker, Moses Douglas. There's a lot of guys behind them, but cornerback, that you're replacing two guys in the NFL that could be day one starters in Kelvin Joseph and Brandon Eccles. It's not going to be a small task. Freddie, who do you expect to be the big man to step up in that cornerback room?
Jalen Geiger is another safety that I'm hearing really good things about as well.
Yep.
Cornerback, I think Cedric Dort. I really like the study of Cedric Dort. Came in and played as a true freshman, was injured, missed a year, came back, started in 2019, then was a backup in 2020. Now he's back as a starter. So I think the story of perseverance for Cedric Dort is something that I appreciate. And I'm happy to see him in that starting role. Then Carrington Valentine on the other side, from all accounts, from all things that I'm hearing out of the football training facility, is that he has a potential to be a star. So Valentine, Dort are the two players that I'm hearing most about. And I think Kentucky does not have a drop-off that much from last year to this year.
And that's saying a lot, because Kelvin Joseph had 4 picks in only 7 games of action. That's the most by a Wildcat in a decade. What do you think makes Carrington Valentine a potentially special kind of player for the Wildcats?
I think he's got some size to him. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds at the corner position. He's got some long arms, a really good fluid runner. It's family soccer background. So he's a guy that can really run, and he's got some physicality there at the point of attack, playing that boundary corner spot. And I think he just has some traits that are hard to find. And Kentucky did a good job, I think, recruiting him, getting him out of Cincinnati Moeller. And he hit some checkpoints, I think, last year. Playing as a true freshman cornerback for Mark Stoops is not something we've seen very often. The times they have done it, it's been kind of out of necessity. They didn't play him out of necessity last year. And so I think that says a lot about how high the staff is on him. And like you said, you talk to anybody in the program, and they'll gush about Carrington Valentine if you let them. And then on the other side, you've got Dort, who's a redshirt senior who started 13 games in his career, has played a lot. But I think a key in this position is super senior Quandre Mosley, back for another year. Depth is a little bit of concern here. I think the starters you can feel good about, but depth is a worry. You look after them, you've got Andrew Phillips and a couple true freshmen. I don't know if any of those guys are really ready to go in and contribute to SEC right now. But I think they have 3 ones that they feel good about. And Mosley's a big deal in case one of those starters gets banged up or something, because you can plug him in there and feel really good about him. And you can kind of have a rotation there at cornerback, which they like to have. So Quandre Mosley is not a guy we've talked about a lot, but I think that super senior, former junior college transfer, I think he's going to play a big role for the defense this season.
Not one, but 2 super seniors that could play big roles in the Kentucky secondary that's finished tops in the SEC in pass defense the last 2 years. Some thought it was a fluke in 2019. They said, it was because Kentucky ran all. They couldn't throw the ball. No, Kentucky's got a good pass defense. We expect more of the same in 2021. Thank you all so much for tuning into all of our La Rosa's Kentucky football preseason position previews. Kickoff is just days away. Get excited. It's finally almost time for football in the Bluegrass.